Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Chapter 21. Counting the first floor of the prison, Mr. Zhao is the most interesting. The next day, Su Yuxing heard about it. Wu Tang, the 6 demons of Mobei, went to the execution ground. Until the moment when the ghost knife fell, his eyes were fixed on the ground, as if he was waiting for someone to rescue him. As for Li Shang, half a month after Wu Tang's execution, his family members came to the prison to have a fight. Weeping so loudly at the gate of the prison, he said that he had been missing since he was released from the prison one day, and there was no one there. But he was frightened by the prison officials with a killing stick, threw a few pieces of silver at random, and sent him back. I never dared to come later. No one came to take Li Shang's place. Because in just half a year, 2 people in the Li family died in a row, and the Tianlao didn't forcefully go to the Li family to take people away. They only reported the death of the Li family and cancelled their status as jailers. The veteran prison guards of the wuxia lamented about this for a few days, and the matter was left alone. Because the second son of the Li family had come to the prison to look for Su Yuxing that day, Su Yuxing had thought that he would be found again, and even thought of a trick to prevaricate the officials of the Jingqiao government. Never thought, this matter never progressed to this step. The city of Yujing is full of high-ranking officials and dignitaries, and one knows how many cases will happen every day. A small prison guard disappears, not in prison. In Jingqiao Mansion, it is not even a big thing. To put it bluntly, it's not even as serious as throwing a dog at the 6th-rank official's house. How can manpower be wasted to investigate such a case? Later, Su Yuxing made a special trip to Li's house to give some money. It was only after I went there that I found out that except for Li Shang's old mother, the rest of the Li family didn't take his disappearance seriously at all. Going to the prison to cry and make noise is just to take the opportunity to extort some money. Even Li Xing, Li Shang's second brother, who came to Tianlao to report the letter, didn't remember seeing Su Yuxing. Human life is really worthless. Su Yuxing, who walked out of the gate of Li's house for the second time, couldn't help but feel a lot of emotion in his heart. Li Shang's mother, brother, elder sister-in-law and sister-in-law are all there at home, and that's still the case. If this happened to him, he was alone, probably no one would even ask him a question. Think about it, it's better to buy more yuanbao candles to burn Li San, Li Shang and his son in the Qingming and Chongyang festivals. Before I knew it, another half-month passed. On this day, Su Yuxing had just finished strolling around the cells of other brands. Returning to the rest area of the prison guards of the E brand, I suddenly found that this place has changed from the bustle of the past. No one gambled, no one drank and punched, not even a single person who told dirty jokes. A group of jailers were all sitting on chairs with sad faces, and sighs came from their mouths from time to time. Su Yuxing felt it was strange, pulled a familiar jailer, and asked doubts. The jailer sighed softly and said with a wry smile, "What else can it be? Of course it's a matter of life and death. Another prisoner escaped from prison." Su Yuxing was startled. "No, but it's about the same." The old jailer shook his head, pointed to the square table in the room where the guards usually drink and gamble, and said, "Look for yourself." Only then did Su Yuxing notice that there was a blank sheet of paper on the table. "Is an announcement." He picked it up and took a look. His body trembled slightly, and a strange light appeared in his eyes. The announcement was made by the jailer. It just said one thing. Well, the dull atmosphere in the room was broken by a jailer's sigh, and he said with a sad face, "It is said that the worst prisons in the lower prison are 100 times more vicious than the hardest bones on the first floor of our prison. On weekdays, it is normal for all the jailers and guards to die. Do you know how many people die every year?" Quote. The person raised one hand as a gesture, "At least this number." "Yeah, this time there is not enough manpower, so we have to temporarily transfer from the first floor of our prison. It also shows that the loss of manpower is serious, and it is almost too late to fill the vacancies. You said that if you go down now, don't you just die properly?" Quote. It's said above that at least one person should be nominated for each brand name, and we'll draw lots to decide. I don't know who will draw the life and death lottery with our E number. When all the jailers were depressed, someone suddenly said something. "No need to smoke." When everyone heard this, they raised their heads in unison. The person who spoke was standing in the middle of the room, slowly rolling up the white paper announcement in his hand, and putting it away carefully. Then he smiled at everyone, and said, "In the past, I was taken care of by all my uncles. This time, let me do it." Quote. As soon as this statement came out, everyone was stunned on the spot. Little Sue, Su Yuxing had been thinking about how to get into the lower dungeon. Never had a clue, but I never thought that opportunities always come to me quietly and nod. Vertently. There is a shortage of manpower in the lower prison, and the next floor of the prison is filled with jailers. A godsend. Su Yuxing almost woke up laughing from a dream. On this day, the other 6 names on the first floor of the prison were all gloomy. For a life and death lottery, some colleagues who had a good relationship with each other turned against each other. Only the E-shaped prison cell is decorated with lights and festoons, full of joy and harmony. Someone is willing to take the initiative to stand up and be the dead ghost, who is not happy. No matter how much he laughs behind his back, Su Yuxing is stupid, stunned, and insane. On the bright side, there are all kinds of good words of comfort. Xiao Su, in fact, you don't have to do this matter. But if you want to go, everyone won't stop you. Actually, it's not that scary down here. I just heard it from hearsay. That's right, I know the so-and-so who used to be in Class A, who went down the year before last, and is still alive and well now. I heard that some time ago, he took over the second bedroom and gave birth to a fat and chubby child. Quote. Yeah, although the environment below is a little worse than above. But the salary is high. 1 year's salary tops the top 10 years, and you stay at the bottom for 3 years. Where can't you buy a new house in Yujing City? Su Yuxing looked at the faces of these people, front and back, and listened to what they were saying, only found it interesting. He didn't expose it, and responded with a smile. Seeing him like this, a group of fellow jailers felt more and more guilty, so they simply collected some money and asked Su Yuxing to have a good drink at Zaywallow in the evening and practice for him. But in their hearts, is this drink a practice or a farewell? Then I don't know. Su Yuxing did not refuse, and drank with everyone in Zaywallow until midnight. After everyone is drunk and unconscious, those who stay overnight, and those who go home go home. Su Yuxing bought 2 roast chickens and brought a pot of Zaywallow's most expensive, zuatangchun. Turning back to the sky prison, he opened a certain cell in the wuxia with a smile. Mr. Zhao Xilan, who was sleeping soundly at that time, woke up and saw Su Yuxing standing in front of him, and Su Yuxing was holding a roast chicken wine. I was so scared that I almost peed out. Xiao Su, don't scare me. Why did the decapitated meal come in the middle of the night? Is it so sudden? Quote. Su Yuxing looked at Zhao Xilan, who was trembling all over, and for a moment, he leaned forward and backward with laughter. I just feel that the lights of Zaywallow are feasting, and the warm jade adds fragrance. Not as happy as 1% at the moment. After counting the first floor of the prison, Mr. Zhao is the most interesting. Chapter 22. Jailman, Su Yuxing. Yes. Next, jailer, Shen Jin. Su Yuxing lowered his body slightly, followed 2 guards with knives and armor, and walked slowly into the dark and deep corridor in front of him. Before and after him, there were 9 other jailers like him who were originally on the first floor of the prison. I didn't expect that the guards on the second floor of the prison would be so strict. Su Yuxing recalled what he had just experienced. First, the portrait is compared with the person, and then the blood is taken for a body test, and even a jade plate-shaped object is used to take a photo on the forehead. It is said that it is for soul testing, and it is designed to prevent someone from using the secret method of seizing the house to sneak into the prison. Su Yuxing almost thought that he was about to expose. Fortunately, his soulware seems to be much more advanced than the secret method of seizing the house. Su Yuxing followed the guards into the tunnel, first went up, then down, and then up again. After making 7 turns and 8 turns, walking up and down alternately for about a stick of incense, the group of people finally reached the end of the corridor. Arrive. Almost all the guards who were transferred from the first floor of the prison trembled slightly. Only Su Yuxing looked at everything around him curiously from the corner of his eye. It's not as imagined. As soon as you enter the second floor of the prison, you step into the ghosts and ghosts. Compared with the first floor, the second floor seems to be much clearer, and the torches on the wall are more fully lit. But the fierce and gloomy atmosphere around is really quite thick, probably 2 or 3 times that of the first floor. Su Yuxing practiced. Human butcher knife, and he has the most keen sense of this kind of breath. The environment on the first floor is already pretty old, but the second floor. Sure enough, it is not a place where ordinary people can live for a long time. At this time, all of them were in an empty place like a lobby, and several people looked at them expressionlessly. Su Yuxing glanced at the three of them, and found that martial Dao was not actually weak. All of them are above condensing pulse, and the leader is already a small master who has achieved success in gathering energy. The clothes the three of them wore were also quite strange, similar to those worn by Tu Mozi, but the patterns embroidered on their chests were different from those of Tu Mozi. It is a black one-horned Qilin. No, not Qilin. Su Yuxing suddenly remembered that this strange beast should be called Xiaji. According to legend, it is an ancient mythical beast that can distinguish right from wrong, know good from evil, loyal to traitor, and master brave and fair. That's how many people. The leader of the three, a middle-aged man with a short beard, glanced at Su Yuxing and the others, and said with a cold snort. The guard who led the way smiled wryly. It's not bad to be able to make up 10 of them, but there is also a shortage of people on the first floor. Those people in the official department. The middle-aged man with a short beard seemed to want to swear a few words, but soon stopped, shook his head and said, "Okay, anyway, it will last for more than a month anyway." As he spoke, he set his sights on a group of jailers who had been transferred. The middle-aged man with the short beard had cold and sharp eyes, like a frost-soaked knife, piercing his face with pain. None of the guards dared to look at each other, and some even started to tremble in their calves, almost urinating. Su Yuxing mixed with a group of jailers with his head down, pretending to be a good boy. The middle-aged man with a short beard saw the unbearable appearance of the jailers, and suddenly became a little depressed. He looked away, waved his hands casually and said, "Those who have practiced martial arts come out." All the jailers looked at each other, and then about 2/3 of them took a step forward. Those below the body tempering third stage don't count. The middle-aged man with short beard shouted behind him. Well, I immediately retracted more than half of it. There were a total of 4 people left, and a petty official came up and started questioning each of them with a pen and paper. Name, age, strength of martial Dao. Wang Dekong, 39, body tempering 4th stage. After questioning 3 people in a row, the one with the highest strength was only body tempering 6th stage, and the middle-aged man with a short beard couldn't stand it anymore. Now it's Su Yuxing's turn. Name, age, strength of martial Dao. Su Yuxing, 18, martial Dao. Su Yuxing thought for a while, and replied, "I just congealed my pulse not long ago." Wow. As soon as Su Yuxing finished speaking, there was a slight uproar among the guards beside him, and they all looked at him with rather incredulous and disbelieving eyes. The little official who was writing the record was also stunned for a moment, and then the middle-aged man with short beard raised his head and looked at Su Yuxing. "Don't lie, it's a serious crime to lie to the superior." The little official said something to Su Yuxing with a serious face, and then said, "Stretch out your hand and call True Qi." Su Yuxing complied, and then from the 6 True Qi vortexes at Dantian, yes, he is now the 6th stage of shedding fan, a little bit of True Qi thinner than a hair was drawn and circulated into the palm of his hand. The little official put his hand on Su Yuxing's palm, quickly retracted it, and then turned around in surprise and nodded at the middle-aged man with short beard. Good boy. Seeing this, the middle-aged man with a short beard had bright eyes, stepped up quickly, and put his hand on Su Yuxing's shoulder. Su Yuxing immediately felt a True Qi that was about 1% of his single True Qi vortex pouring in from his shoulder. Hastily and forcibly suppressed the 6 restless True Qi vortexes at Dantian, for fear that a single one would leak out and shock the short-bearded middle-aged man to death, but he still wanted to put on an obedient look on his face. It is indeed the first stage of congealing pulse. The middle-aged man with short beard withdrew his palm in satisfaction, and then asked Su Yuxing, "What is your background?" "The 7 generations of the family are all jailers." "Who taught you martial arts?" "My father taught some before he was alive. After entering the prison, he made some contributions and got a cultivation technique from the previous prison guard." Su Yuxing answered truthfully, without hiding anything. He even told the truth about his deal with Li Zhondian. He even said the name of the 5 tigers covering the earth kung fu obtained from Li Yudian. Because this matter cannot be concealed, the people above want to find out, and they can find it out anyway. Su Yuxing wasn't afraid to check. he and Li Zhondian's deals were all in accordance with the rules. As for whether Li Yudian obeyed the rules, he didn't know. Anyway, Li Yudian has been dead for more than half a year, and there is no proof of his death. The middle-aged man with a short beard listened to Su Yuxing's answers with even more satisfaction on his face. Nodding his head, he ordered the left and right, "Send this kid to sea. Oh no, send him to Ren Zihao prison and stay there for 2 months. If the performance is acceptable, it will be accepted." Quote. After finishing speaking, he smiled and said to Su Yuxing, "I never expected to find treasures in a pile of rubbish. It just so happens that there is a shortage of prison officers in my town, you just happen to be lucky." Su Yuxing blinked and caught a word in the words of the middle-aged man with a short beard. Town prison secretary. This is the first time he heard of it outside of Demon Slayer Division and Demon Slayer Division. The third division of the Dayu dynasty. Chapter 23. Su Yuxing himself didn't expect that to enter the second floor of the prison, he would need to check the martial Dao cultivation base first. And he showed a little bit of strength, but he seemed to be taken by the prison chief of Dayu's third department. There are a total of 9 brands on the second floor of the Tianlao, and the prisoners in the Renzi prison are the least dangerous. Lieutenant Hu took a fancy to you, and specially assigned you here. You have to think of him well, stay for a month or 2, and then you will be a member of our prison division. Quote. It was the small prison official who wrote the record before who personally showed Su Yuxing the way. Perhaps because of Su Yuxing's extraordinary performance, the future is destined to belong to the prison chief. This person is also quite affectionate to Su Yuxing, and he has been mentioned a lot on the way. The prison official is far stronger than your current status as a prison official. The lowest level is also from the 9th rank, and as long as the cultivation base is improved in the future, it is not difficult to be promoted. When this person said this to Su Yuxing, he looked at Su Yuxing with envy. Su Yuxing suddenly realized that he had exposed too much strength. Pulse coagulation first stage is nothing. But he forgot his own age. The 18-year-old Ningmei first stage seems to be a little out of sorts. It is estimated that even if he is not a martial Dao genius, he can still be regarded as a martial Daoist talent. I still haven't thought about it a little bit. Su Yuxing sighed in his heart, and then heard the little official continue. Although Renzizi is safe, don't take it lightly. You must know that those who can enter the second floor of this prison are all repeat offenders. The one with the weakest strength before being imprisoned also has the cultivation base. Okay. Su Yuxing's eyes lit up immediately. Transcendence. For a prisoner in the mortal transformation realm, at least 50 experience points can be given to him every hour. As long as 10 are included, it will be 500, and there will be 6,000 in one day. Collect 20, and there will be 12,000 every day. If all the criminals on the second floor of the dungeon can be included in the Sin and Prison Sutra. Didn't he take off in place? I entered the Renzihao prison, so I can only stay in Renzihao from now on. Su Yuxing couldn't help asking. The little official shook his head and said, of course it is impossible, and it will only make you comfortable for a month or 2. When you really enter the township prison division, the entire second floor, and even the 3rd and 4th floors below, you have to run a lot. That's good, that's good. Su Yuxing was afraid of being tied to a certain name. He is not afraid of having too many things to do. Xiaozu, a model worker on the 1st floor of the prison, is not nicknamed for nothing. It seems that the prison chief still has to enter. Su Yuxing secretly set a small goal for himself at the moment. He must successfully join the prison division. The sooner the better. Okay, here we are. Soon, the petty official brought Su Yuxing to a gatehouse. This place is much larger than the activity area of the prison guards on the 1st floor of Tianlao. The ground and walls are all made of big stones 1 meter square, and something has been poured on it. Under the firelight, the ground and walls are all shining with a cold luster like metal. Just looking at these, it gives people a sense of both strictness. The clerk led Su Yuxing into the 3-meter-high gate. After entering, he saw 2 people sitting and lying down. One is drinking tea and the other appears to be sleeping. Send a newcomer here, take good care of him. The prison official greeted the jailer who was drinking tea, then left Su Yuxing and turned away. At this time, the 2 guards who were drinking tea and sleeping in the room all turned their attention to Su Yuxing. Guarantee, didn't you kid get caught by the prison guard? The tea drinker was an old man with dimples on his face. he put down his teacup and approached Su Yuxing, looked around at him, amazed. The jailer who had just changed from lying to sitting was much younger, probably only in his 20s, with an ordinary appearance, but his eyes were extremely bright, and his smile was quite charming. "Newcomer, what's your name?" the young jailer asked him. Su Yuxing answered. When I heard that Su Yuxing was recruited from the first floor of the prison, and that he was only 18 years old, he has the strength of the first stage of congealing pulse. The two guards, one old and one young, looked at Su Yuxing in a sudden change. Really? It turns out that it's the internship at our Ren Zihao, tisk tisk. The young guards made no secret of their admiration for Su Yuxing, asking around him. After talking for a while, Su Yuxing also knew about it. The old jailer's surname is Huang, and everyone calls him Lao Huang on weekdays. The young guard is called Shu Qing. It's not just the two of them in Renzihao prison, everyone else is busy with their own business now. Practice martial arts, Shu Qing said to Su Yuxing. They are all practicing martial arts with all their might. Is the second floor of the dungeon so convoluted? Su Yuxing was surprised. You know, the jailers on the first floor of the prison are just gambling and drinking every day. Compared with the atmosphere here, it is simply two worlds. Roll. After reading this word, Lao Huang tasted the taste, and boasted, the word Xiao Su is quite appropriate. I trust you, it should be fine to call you Xiao Su. I am Xiao Su, you can always call me whatever you want. Su Yuxing said humbly. Lao Huang nodded, and then sighed. If you don't do it, you can't do it, you don't have the strength, even the prisoners can't be tried on the second floor of the prison. How can a prisoner who does not try to have a performance? If there is no performance, the salary will be deducted at the end of the year. Good guy. Su Yuxing was really shocked. I didn't expect that the sky prison also depends on performance. But what Lao Huang said was right. Martial Dao is not strong enough, he might not even be able to interrogate the prisoner. This problem was discovered in the jailer on the first floor of the prison. Sometimes a few strong bones come here, and the gang of jailers whose general strength is only body tempering or third stage, will tire themselves out before giving them a few rounds of torture. Among the felons detained on the second floor of the dungeon, even those with the weakest strength were in the realm of transformation. The practitioner's martial body has been trained by true qi, and it has long been far away from transcendent. Even if the Dantian qi is sealed, and the true qi is abolished, the physical strength is not something that ordinary people can hurt. I want to make these monsters feel pain. Do you need some strength? Those two. Su Yuxing looked at Lao Huang and Shu Qing, hesitant to speak. Are you stupid? Shu Qing looked at him speechlessly, and said, there must be no one in the cell, right? Someone must watch. Pooh. Before Su Yuxing could open his mouth, Lao Huang spat at Shu Qing and scolded, you are just lazy, what excuse are you looking for? I can't see this prison cell old man alone. Go ahead and be lazy, sooner or later you will regret it. Being scolded by Huang, Shu Qing wasn't angry at all, she was still laughing and laughing. Chapter 34. When Su Yuxing came in, he secretly checked the strength of the two of them. Through qi and blood induction, Shu Qing is body tempering 8th stage. Lao Huang is also a body tempering 8th stage. The latter may have a higher real strength. After all, it is normal for the blood to decline with age. Although none of them have congealed their pulses, their strength is also remarkable. Even the jailers on the first floor couldn't keep up. Su Yuxing suddenly thought of something. Since the second floor has high requirements on the strength of the jailers, why do we need to go to the first floor to transfer people? It's not very useful for the first floor jailers to come to the second floor. How not? Shu Qing said with a smile. Take your life to fill the hole, anyway, someone will die anyway, and the higher-ups don't feel sorry for how many people die on the first floor. Nonsense. After Shu Qing finished speaking, he was immediately scolded by Lao Huang. Through Lao Huang's explanation, Su Yuxing knew. It turned out that there was a shortage of manpower on the second floor, but the root cause was that there was not enough manpower on the third floor. The people on the third floor are all demons. Demons are no better than humans, and their temper is hard to catch. God knows which part of the body has been refined into a murder weapon, and if one is not careful, it can kill someone. All along, the third floor has the highest death rate. Whether it is an ordinary jailer or an official of the prison division. The old yellow god mysteriously said to Su Yuxing. Besides, I heard that there seemed to be a lot of turmoil on the third floor recently, and many people from the demon slayer and the jailer were killed and injured. Ordinary jailers, let alone. Su Yuxing listened intently. He felt that the first floor of the dungeon, the second floor, and the third floor. It's like a layer of a world. The deeper you go down, the more mysterious and extraordinary you will be able to discover this world. Demon. He had only heard of it in storybooks before. I don't know what it really looks like. After some conversation, Lao Huang finally waved his hand and greeted Xu Qing. You kid doesn't do anything serious every day. Now that Xiao Su is here, it's just for you to take him around a few cells to get acquainted with the situation. Xu Qing agreed, and Su Yuxing naturally couldn't ask for it. Time to go to jail. His big knife, oh no, his Sin and Prison Sutra, is already too hungry and thirsty. We don't have many prisoners in Renzi, there are only 4 in total, this is the first. Xu Qing took Su Yuxing to number 1 prison. Unlike the first floor of the prison, the cells on the second floor have no doors. The cell was completely open, and one could even see a figure sitting cross-legged inside. Do you think it's strange? Xu Qing seemed to be waiting for Su Yuxing to be surprised. He chuckled, and immediately reached out and knocked on the side of the cell door. Immediately afterwards, Su Yuxing saw a layer of translucent blue light emerge from the open cell door. Sparkling, like a water curtain. This is. Su Yuxing was really shocked. The restrictions circle arranged by the innate great master of Tiangong himself, without a key, even if an expert from the 9th stage of the 9th stage breaks in, it is a dead word. Xu Qing said with a serious expression. Tiangong Pavilion, innate great master. Su Yuxing forcibly resisted the urge to activate the 6th layer of Balraji golden body, and activate the true qi all over his body, wanting to try the power of this magic circle. Then Xu Qing took out a weird key studded with gemstones from his bosom, cut open the water curtain lightly, and walked in with him. After entering the cell, I realized that there is quite a lot of space inside. The entire cell was empty, except for a beam of skylight falling from nowhere in the middle. A beam of light shines on a weirdo. Red hair, disheveled head, shaped pin bones. Limbs and bones were bound by fist-thick chains piercing through with faintly shining talismans. Hearing the movement made by Su Yuxing and the strange man slowly looked up, revealing an ugly face with only 2 empty blood holes left in the eyes. Red-haired old devil, a new brother will greet you in the future. Xu Qing shouted at the red-haired weirdo, without any trace of fear on his face. The weirdo ignored him and just sniffed in Su Yuxing's direction, as if to remember his smell. Then he lowered his head and ignored the 2 of them. The red-haired old devil, Devil Dao, the head of the 7 sects of the Scarlet Flame sect, with superb Scarlet Flame magic skills, once intentionally set fire to death more than 100,000 people in a county. Xu Qing introduced to Su Yuxing. But you don't have to be afraid of him, this guy used to be majestic, half-step innate. But now all of his cultivation base has been scrapped by 2 Mozi, and he still has the special magic chain made by Tiangong Pavilion on his body, so he can't get out of the slightest storm. But don't get too close to him, this guy will probably spit on you. He melted with fire and poison, and his saliva was more poisonous and hot than the magma that had been added with Crane's Crown Red. Some unlucky colleagues were vomited to death by him before. Su Yuxing thought, the firepower he could mobilize with his 6th floor, Blaze Demon body, is not so exaggerated. I don't know how many grades of Scarlet Flame Demon art this weirdo practiced, it sounds like it's even more powerful than the golden body of Fire Demon. However, it is also possible that the 2 cultivation techniques have different emphases. After all, the golden body of the Balrog is a horizontal cultivation technique. Seeing this red-haired weirdo, Xu Qing immediately took him to the next cell. The second prisoner was an incense master of Liansheng sect. Cultivation base is average, only the 6th stage. Not worth mentioning, but hearing that this person was taught by Liansheng, Su Yuxing couldn't help but think of the old devil Yan Huan who caused a bloody disaster on the 1st floor of the prison. So far, old demon Yan Huan is still the number 1 experience baby under Su Yuxing, and he steadily produces less than 1,000 experience points every day, which is very worry-free. Yan Huan was also detained on the 2nd floor, but I don't know which cell in which company. Just as Su Yuxing was thinking, he followed Shu Qing into the third cell. When he saw the clear old man sitting in the light beam, wearing shackles, but still looked like an old god, calm and breezy, he was stunned for a moment. Who could this person be if it wasn't Yan Huan? Su Yuxing didn't expect that Yan Huan would be imprisoned in Ren Zihao's cell. You said it was a coincidence. Yan Huan, who was sleeping with his eyes closed, heard the noise and opened his eyes. It turned out to be little friend Shu Qing, who came to see me again. Yan Huan greeted Shu Qing with a smile, and Shu Qing responded happily. It is really hard to imagine that one of these two is a prisoner and the other is a jailer guarding him. Su Yuxing sighed in his heart that Shu Qing is also a big-hearted person, and he can chat with any monster, as if the other party is his relative. After Yan Huan greeted Shu Qing, his eyes fell on Su Yuxing. When he saw Su Yuxing's appearance clearly, he was startled. It turned out to be you. Yan Huan obviously recognized Su Yuxing, with a slightly surprised look on his face. But the surprise quickly subsided, and he turned to look at Su Yuxing with a meaningful look, and said slowly, "My little friend can come here." It seems that he pretended to be deaf and dumb to deceive the old man. Not bad, not bad, at such a young age, he is extremely alert and intelligent. Although Yan Huan's exclamations were words of praise, no matter how he listened to them, it gave people a feeling of being targeted by him with malicious intentions. If ordinary people hear it, they will definitely feel chills in their hearts, and they will at least have nightmares for 3 days and 3 nights after returning home. But Su Yuxing didn't feel any wavering in his heart. At this moment and at that moment, he was afraid of Yan Huan at the beginning because his strength was too weak. Now he has also entered the mortal state, and it won't be long before he will be able to morph into the 9th stage. Not to mention that Yan Huan is now in prison. Even if he let go of the first battle, he may not be Su Yuxing's opponent. No matter how dare Yin and Yang intimidate people, be careful to find a chance to kill you. Anyway, Su Yuxing has long been greedy for Yan Huan's Lianshengjiao magic skills for a long time. Chapter 25. Seeing Yan Huan talking to Su Yuxing, a strange look flashed in Shu Qing's eyes. Xiao Su, do you know this old devil? Su Yuxing replied. This person was detained for a few days on the first floor of the prison, which happened to be the cell of my name. I see. Suddenly, Shu Qing took Su Yuxing out. Soon they saw the 4th prisoner. This person described Gao Jiyu as thinner than the red-haired old devil in prison number 1, almost like a skeleton. Not only is there a dharma chain wrapped around his body, there are also 8 black long nails piercing through the skull and firmly nailed to the top of his head. Shu Qing explained. This person is the ghost cultivator from the 10,000 Ghosts Cave. The ghost cultivator is best at the method of moving the soul and seizing the soul, so he needs to nail it with a soul-locking nail to prevent him from abandoning his body and escaping his soul. But this person won't live long. The soul-locking nail is about to shatter his soul. 10,000 Ghost Caves. Su Yuxing recited the name once, silently remembering it in his heart. Today he learned about the Scarlet Flame sect among the 7 sects of Devil Dao, as well as the Ghost Dao in 10,000 Ghost Caves, and his knowledge has really increased a lot. Shu Qing Dage is really amazing, all kinds of secrets are so rare. When going out, Su Yuxing flattered Shu Qing casually. When Shu Qing heard this, he immediately turned to look at him. His eyes were a little secretive, but quickly returned to normal. Ha ha, Shu Qing smiled, waved his hands and said, I don't like cultivation, but I am very interested in these weird things. Sometimes the prison chief of Tumosi town will mention it when he sends the prisoners, so I remember it. I see. Su Yuxing nodded, as if he believed it. Shu Qing continued. These prisoners are interrogated every 3 days and fed every 7 days. We just need to feed them some water each time to keep them alive, but there is no need for any rice or noodles, otherwise we will have a lot of trouble in interrogating them times. Su Yuxing wrote down one by one. After explaining everything that needs to be explained, Shu Qing arranged a place for him to live in, and said intimately that today is the first day he transferred here, so he doesn't need to do anything, just rest well. Su Yuxing was not pretentious, so he just stayed in the room and packed some daily necessities. What Su Yuxing didn't see was that after walking out of his residence, Shu Qing stared at his room for a long time before turning around and leaving with a sneer. Su Yuxing stayed on the 2nd floor of the dungeon like this. There were only 4 prisoners in Renzihao prison, but there were 8 guards in charge of guarding them. There were 2 people in a class, and it took him more than a week to meet all the 8 guards in Renzihao prison. These people couldn't say whether they were enthusiastic or indifferent towards his arrival. Anyway, they all got along like this when they were colleagues. It's just that compared with the bustle of gambling, drinking, punching and boxing on the first floor of Tianlao, this place really looks deserted. Also too much leisure. The 4 prisoners had to be interrogated one by one every 3 days, and Su Yuxing quickly included all 3 of them except Yan Huan in the Sin in Prison Classic. Prisoner. Red hair. Sin value. 7.5 stars. Strength. Half step innate. Status. In custody. Capture participation. 1%. Benefit. 80 experience points per hour. Prisoner. Bei. Sin value. 6 stars. Strength. Metamorphosis 6th stage. Status. In custody. Capture participation. 1%. Benefit. 50 experience points per hour. Prisoner. Ghost swallow. Sin value. 7 stars. Strength. Shedding 9th stage. Status. In custody. Capture participation. 1%. Benefit. 70 experience points per hour. As expected of a second-story prison, although there are few prisoners, all of them are elites. Whether it's Chifa from prison number 1 or Ghost Cultivator Gui Tun from prison number 4, their strength and sin value are not inferior to Yan Huan, or even better. The income provided to Su Yuxing is also quite considerable. The sin of the 7 stars, the 9th stage, was only imprisoned in the number. Innate grade master. Quote, not necessarily impossible. Of course, it may also be that these prisoners have been locked up for too long, are old and weak, and do not rumble much on weekdays. Only those who make a fuss will be locked up. Su Yuxing also witnessed the interrogation process of prisoners on the 2nd floor. And the iron on the 1st floor, the knife bed, the tiger bench, all kinds of torture tools are weird and different. The torturers on the 2nd floor were all arrays. Fire formations, thunder formations, ice formations, knife formations. Just place the prisoner in the formation, and there will be flames, thunder, frost, and swords shot out, giving them inhuman pain. It was an eye-opener for Su Yuxing, and he finally understood why these vicious old devils turned into the inhuman and ghost-like appearance they are now. Time flies, more than half a month has passed. Su Yuxing sat cross-legged in the middle of the room. The true qi, which is as majestic as the sea, swells, rolling up the dust and powder on the ground, forming cyclones visible to the naked eye one by one around its body. These cyclones collide with each other and merge to form a larger cyclone. A hurricane gradually set off in the room, and fortunately there was not much furniture in the room, otherwise it would have been ravaged. Wait until the cyclone grows to a certain level. There was a sudden tremor, and then the whole thing disintegrated, turning into countless streams of clear water, cleaning the floor of the room clean and tidy. Call. Su Yuxing exhaled a foul breath and slowly opened his eyes. Failed. There was a bit of complexity in his eyes, but there was no look of frustration. Just now, Su Yuxing, who has reached the 9th stage of transformation, tried to attack innate. Unfortunately, this attack ended in failure without any suspense. Fortunately, I practice the 6th level of the Blaze Demon Golden Body. My martial body is powerful, and I have 180 schools of martial arts in 3 realms and 4 realms, so my foundation is dozens of times deeper than that of the same level. Otherwise, the true chi backlash after this failure will seriously injure me. The 9th stage Jin innate is to knead the 9 true chi vortexes in Dantian into one, and then compress and condense. 9 true chi vortexes merged into one, just think about how dangerous it must be. And the whole process is still carried out in Dantian. If there is a little carelessness, true chi may go berserk, Dantian burst, ranging from serious injury to death. That is Su Yuxing, who has learned 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 grades of martial arts, and his attainments are not low, and his physical qualities have long been piled into an inhuman realm. The backlash that failed to resist a wave of impact was nothing serious, it just felt that the true chi in the body was a little disordered, and the flow of chi and blood was not smooth. I failed when I merged to the 6th cyclone this time. If I try more than a dozen or 20 times, I might succeed. Su Yuxing thought, but immediately shook his head and rejected this idea. Forget it, let's use experience points to pile up. Am I stupid if I don't take shortcuts and insist on detours? Quote. The purpose of his attempt was to think about whether he could save some experience, but now that he thinks about it, he should forget it, the experience value should be spent or he must spend it. Based on my current earnings, in another 10 days or so, I will be able to accumulate enough experience points to attack innate. Thinking of the long-awaited innate Grandmaster realm, Su Yuxing's eyes were full of anticipation. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.